Yeah, there's one more too. Just the year two. Oh, yeah.
I will call this budget workshop meeting to order. It is December 9, 2025 at 9:30 a.m. Those present, Commissioner Hedin, Commissioner Hadler, Commissioner McCurdy, Commissioner McGann, Commissioner Martinez, Commissioner McCandless, and myself, Commissioner Winfield, with our administrator, Mr. Tyner, and clerk auditor, Dave Wojtek. And we again have our HR director and Chantel in the audience to help us as we work through all of this. And I appreciate first all of the help that you guys were able, you ladies and guys were able to give us yesterday as we worked through all of this. I think we're getting closer and closer and we're making some good progress here. So once again, thanks for everybody's efforts on that. And starting off, I'll probably say something in the regular commission meeting as well, but I want to say something now is that we have definitely had some help from staff and all of the Christmas lighting that's gone on. I think it's important to note the after hours and efforts that everybody's making to make this holiday season something special. So with that, we can go into the budget. Does anybody have somewhere they want to get started?
Let's start just real quick.
Okay, Commissioner Martinez, and then we'll go to Commissioner McCurdy.
So maybe just a recap of kind of where we were at yesterday. I think we started off at 1.456 that we were looking at as for a withdrawal from the general fund. I did a little bit of work with Mark this morning. And so looking at total, if we were to institute the hiring freeze for the entire year, we'd be looking at 1.1 million right there, deduction out of that. Looking at the admin fees, moving that to $4 right there, we'd be looking at 107,000. And then the voluntary RIF that we would have a adjustment of about very conservatively $100,000 on the general fund. Putting that together right there, we at 1.357 million right there, coming at the at that 1.4. I also went and reviewed the TRT and the TRCCA as far as mitigation, and it does not fall. I think we were off a little bit yesterday when we went through. So the TRCCA collection is 1.53 and the TRT mitigation is at 4.56. So that's going to come to about 6.1 million right there. The sheriff, if we were to allocate the entire sheriff budget, is 4.9. That gives us 1.2 million right there left over as we move into these additional funds that we were looking to fund. I believe that we're looking for 500,000 for solid waste, 112,000 for the museum.
114.
Okay, well, yeah, 114. I have 112. 112, that's fine. So 114.
114, 525, they put in the budget.
Okay, so that comes up to 614 right there. And that's gonna leave us 590,000 left over on that. If we included on there the 115 for housing and then the 150 for the trail ambassadors right there.
Yes.
That still gives us a little bit of an offset that we could apply to the general fund and keep us in the black. That's just my basic math. I could be wrong. I haven't worked with Chantel or anybody else, but that's kind of where I came to this morning. So I did go over it with Mark this morning. So that's at least where I'm feeling like we're at right now. If you guys have other opinions.
Did you say hiring freeze for the whole year or half year?
That's for a whole year.
The whole year.
That's for a whole year. But with that, you still have about 265,000 right there in the black that we could have. So as positions come up that are required, it would still allow us a little bit of latitude to hire people throughout the year.
Commissioner McCurdy, you were next, and then Commissioner Hedin.
Just an observation, did see that in talks yesterday, the city that what is on a different fiscal year, their last meeting is tonight. for the rest of the year. They will be out during the holidays. They posted. So I expect them. I would expect haste in the trying to speak with them if able.
All right, Commissioner Hedin.
I'm sorry, Mike, I was totally spacing out when
You're-
when you just said that. I was completely spacing out. Can you repeat what you just said? My
The city, I know they're on a different fiscal calendar than we are. But their last meeting of the year, they stated was
Today, right? Yeah,
last city council meeting.
Yeah.
Was today, due to the holidays coming up.
tonight.
Yeah, was tonight.
Sure.
Just right, thank you.
Commissioner Hedin and then Commissioner McCandless.
Okay, Brian, I appreciate all that work. So I guess before we start using those numbers to make decisions today, I would want that to move through Chantel and Gabe so that we're just totally solid. And if that's, excuse me, is that a fair statement?
Yeah. Like I said, I was just putting.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So yeah, I just don't want to be using that information to make hard decisions with until it's solid through our
Math.
through our staff.
Commissioner McCandless and then Commissioner McGann.
Well, I just following up on Mike's comment about the city, Andy, I forwarded all to you a message from the director of EMS stating that he had never received a bill from Grant County for dispatch services. So I think before we say things like people have past bills that they need to pay us, we just want to make sure that those bills actually went out and not just was a discussion, especially with staff changes. Of course, I was not here, so I don't have, but we want to make sure that if we are saying that other entities aren't paying their bills, that we actually had bills that went to them and that we know that they've been billed not just on our books, so I just want us to be aware of that, that was the concern that EMS had and he's fully willing to work forward on getting something going forward, but he's like, I never received a bill in the past. So I don't know if the city had actually ever received a larger bill. I know they have, I think they've received some bills, but as far as just following all those things and not just making assumptions that we just don't want to have that come back on us as a commission, I don't think.
Very good point.
Yeah, and that
Things to be handled.
I would add to that just real quickly that that information came from the sheriff in multiple discussions. So whether or not there was ever an invoice, I have no idea, but he clearly has made it known that those three entities that were mentioned yesterday have been on the hook. So
I think there's been intent in
I'll get you
discussion.
that.
I just want to verify that,
I agree. I agree
Want to say that
completely.
they are.
yes, Commissioner McGann, my apologies for stepping in there.
Oh, no problem. This is exciting news if the numbers pan out. So my suggestion is if we're for this workshop moving forward, I don't know if we want to discuss things that aren't, to begin with, aren't on these general funds or, I don't know, like talking about our TRT or TRCC, I don't know what else. And wait till Chantel has a chance to double check and double check these numbers so that when we move forward, we're not having to go back and undo. I mean, I would like to start out with the solid numbers.
Mhm.
So, because that's gonna make a huge difference.
We all do. Commissioner Martinez.
So, yeah, but I do think that the agenda for today was to actually go through those additional costs. Right, and so starting there, maybe if we invited Chantel up, we could kind of go through some of that right now and find out where we are. Like I said, I'm looking off of a couple of older sheets too, so I'm not 100% positive these are the same projections that we're currently using. So wherever we're at, I just like that.
And Gabe, would you like to weigh
Okay,
in?
so there's a couple of documents that I emailed to you all.
A new email?
A new email, yeah, about 20.
From now,
And there's a budget that's dated 12/8/2025. And that includes adjustments that were shared to me by Commission Administration yesterday that I've entered into this sort of latest version of the budget. And that that latest updated version of the budget shows a current budgeted draw from the general fund reserves of 1,118,500. And then, so any changes made to that budget from the previous one, which had been presented on the 21st of November, those are highlighted in yellow in that 12/8 budget that you all have linked to now. Also in that email is what's called the 2026 budget scenario calc sheet, and perhaps that could be a useful way. I think it's just kind of speaking to some comments that have been made right now about tracking decisions and their impact on that budgeted draw in real time that can be adjusted as we go along. And so that everyone can kind of see, and it's not just sort of a verbal summary, something that we can all visually see. And then, any additional adjustments can be entered in accordingly. As well as, and then I also included in that email the budget workshop document that has been used during conversations about potential changes.
And just out of curiosity, I guess, do you have any thoughts on the TRCCA and TRT numbers that have been presented?
The projections are unchanged. I'm not sure. Those are in the budget. They have been in the budget, so I'm not sure what those
I had
are.
1.532 for TRCCA and 4.56 for TRT mitigation.
Those are your calculations, or?
No, those are the calculations that I had from your original projection. And I don't know if those, you could look just to make sure that those are correct right there.
Okay, so if you go to the budget and so if you go to Fund 22 or TRCC is administered. And you go to the revenue section, which is the first section of Fund 22. It displays projected revenues plus interest and the total amount of 1.512 million.
1.2.
And then if you go to Fund 26, we're looking at mitigation. That's where TRT mitigation is administered. Small section at the beginning is revenues, and again, these haven't been changed from what had been presented. 4.514 in regular revenue, 91,000 in interest for a total of 4.605.
4.6. We are right. So yeah, those numbers were correct then.
Okay, great.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so I recalculated the administrative costs at the $4. And I also did it across the board as you guys requested. You'll see the non-general fund departments on the left. So we had the 4 original yesterday. As they dropped down to the $4 per employee, it went down to $305,760. We've now added library, sheriff, weeds, airport.
Sorry to cut in. Is there any way we could blow that up just a little bit?
Try
Or is that's not in our, we don't have a email.
Or if I can, yeah,
do we have work?
that's way better.
That'd help.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's also super helpful to get those in our inbox because it's still a little bit difficult for me to see, but being able to pull them up on my computer.
I just finished it.
Oh, you did?
minutes ago.
Awesome. Thank you so much. No, I apologize.
You can't, she doesn't play. She always is like one step
Okay,
ahead.
thank you, Sharon.
Okay, so I did it across the board with all the departments that you guys spoke about yesterday, as well as any of the other non-general fund. So CJC is here, Family Support Center. I also marked on the right-hand side in yellow, which were property tax funded and property tax subsidized. So this is the total here. This would be the reimbursement from 2026 general fund listed there. There are new counts for full-time and part-time. However, we based it upon the exact hours from tests in HR. So now if you go to each, if you can, I'll send this out, but at the bottom of Each one of these, you'll notice that the $4 is here. And then this has the exact number of hours that have been budgeted for the year. So such as library. However, I will say that library is property tax funded. So if we do add funds to their budget, you know, they're gonna have to find them somewhere. Possibly by raising property taxes. So the sheriff's department came out to be 53.88 employees, based upon their total number of hours worked in a year. That did include jail dispatch, emergency management, and I sort of just broke those out over here in search and rescue. So I'm not sure if that's what you guys want included or if it's specifically just sheriff's office. However, I did all of them and I calculated everything so that you guys have a clear and concise document to look at least so that you can make a decision on how you want to move forward. Does anybody have any questions?
What would be the financial hit to the sheriff's office, for example?
Okay,
For
go to sheriff's office. It's $448,240.
which is money that we directly have to put back into the sheriff's office to bring them back up to
Exactly.
that.
That's what Gabe said yesterday.
That's what we were, yeah.
And that's,
So that is why, if you'll look on up here, and let me scroll up since it's so. That's why we included the top four, the
Yeah.
original.
Right.
For reasons that were clear, based upon property tax funded, what's subsidized. But yesterday I was directed across the board, so
I understand.
they're all on here now, so that you guys can make an accurate decision. Also, there are two under the special service district. I will also say these two admin down here, groundwater and sewer and solid waste, will be to be discussed in the future, for some services that we'll be possibly providing them, in 2027 through the personnel services. Does anybody have any questions, or do you want to look at each document specifically?
What is the final,
$1,115,052.
and what's the effect on the bottom line of the general fund? That, because like you said, some of it will have to be moved back over,
Oh,
but I just want to know, is it still at the 157?
Yeah, I mean, unless you were to add those charges from cemetery and mosquito. And whatever the amount is for library. So you'd look at 131 plus whatever was mosquito and cemetery. That's 70. So you're looking at 200 with library, cemetery, and mosquito. Otherwise, it's 305 is really the only actual impact.
And the CJC and the airport and what's the FSC?
Family Support Center.
Yeah, that's all just, that doesn't have an impact.
It doesn't have an impact on what?
On the general fund,
Oh,
right?
those departments do not have an impact on it. Okay, thank you.
Gabe, do you mind if I ask you a question? If when in your, I know you've had discussions with other clerks and in your state groups on these fees and such, has something like this come up as to what actually is best practice for who to put these fees on?
All I received in that respect is that we had proposed a 10% assessment initially. That was the feedback that I had received from the state group in regards to a practice that is used in other counties.
Okay.
But yeah, I sent an email out to all the other auditors.
And so I guess it would be up to us to decide if it's appropriate or not regarding the Family Support Center, CJC. The airport, I think, is a no-brainer if it ever gets into the black. to where the airport is self-sustaining, I think. Again, if we do it right now, we're just robbing Peter to pay Paul, are we not?
That would be the case for all of those departments other than the library.
For the CJC, and
Correct. Yeah,
it would be the case.
because we have to bridge the gap for their budgets, so we have to make up what they don't, that are not covered by
Thank you.
others. Yeah.
I understood it to be the opposite.
Okay.
So I still think at this point, I would suggest we just go with the 4 at the top. There isn't any reason to instill a fee on somebody that's just passing money from one to the other unless you have a disagreement with that.
I
please.
do have a disagreement with that right there. And let's just look at it with the sheriff right there. So with that mitigation going to the sheriff, right, realizing that and putting it back into the general fund, right, that does make that general fund money.
Okay.
And then we pay it right back out.
Doesn't matter, but if this is the system that we're using all across the board, right, by charging the sheriff, right, the 448,000, right, it could be taking, in the future, it could be taking mitigation money and making it to be general fund money and realizing it that way. Especially as we look into the future with the mitigation grants, I think that it would be a wise practice to just make sure that once again, that we're going straight across the board on this fee right here. It could be advantageous to us in the future.
Commissioner Hadler.
I definitely see where you're going with that, Brian, and I agree. I think at the end of the day, we have this year anyway, I think we have plenty of paths to spend that mitigation money in other ways.
But maybe not in the future.
Exactly.
It could be a
So
good
what
practice to start now, all the way across.
I would propose, I agree with Bill. I think it only makes sense to do that on the 4. And then now that I think next year we take a decent amount of time, maybe do a subcommittee and get into the nuts and bolts of this and really look at scenarios where we're not under the gun to get a budget done and figure out how we want to implement the structure and upon what departments going into the future. And I'd be happy to be a part of those discussions. I think it's interesting and really relevant. I think everyone here has brought up good points. But I think with our timing and just having an opportunity to delve deeper into it would be advantageous to us going forward.
And I'm trying to understand totally here, but I think all Brian is suggesting is that we're gonna move the money over, even though it gets moved right back with
Right, I understand.
policy in place. I mean, I think that's what Brian is explaining, and I would agree with that. And that's why I mentioned the airport, even though we take money away from them, we're gonna be giving it right back because we're supporting the airport. They're not self-sufficient at this point. But am I understanding that?
Correct, yeah, and they're also looking at possible grants that might be coming up next year, right? It might be nice to have that flexibility set up. And then the second thing is if we do get audited on this, or if we are explaining why we did this, we can say, hey, look, we did this to all restricted funds straight across, right? And we don't have to include that additional justification of, well, we didn't do it for this one because we would just be moving it from here to there. We can just show it in the accounting right there.
No,
And I think
I think Dave looks like he has.
It's not moving. The funds aren't moving anywhere though. That's the problem. So I don't know what I need to do to explain that there's not that, like, this is adding an expense to the sheriff's department, which lives to a revenue in the general fund. That just doesn't, that's not how this works unless the sheriff lived in its own fund. So I don't know, like, I'm a little bit like at a loss in terms of how I can best explain this, but like this mechanism that you're describing isn't in practice is not how this works. So.
But
Commissioner McCurdy.
I don't know what to say.
I truly don't know what the state auditor would look at, but in a recommendation of what would our internal audits want to see across the board? Just the 4 departments, what?
Literally just had an audit meeting next on the schedule for January, which is why I think it might be prudent to tackle this in a much more comprehensive manner in the new year. and I'm not disagreeing with anything anyone's saying. I'm just saying we have to get this done by Tuesday. And I think we have good structure, and I think it's an interesting conversation. I think it's a really useful conversation, but I think it's one that deserves quite a bit more.
I would also
Yeah.
like to add on some of these like weeds, CJC, Family Support Center, we'd have to see, since their budget is funded by a portion of grants, what out of each of those grants would be allowed, they would have to track what is allowed
Sure.
to be used for administrative fees. And anybody else who has grants in their department, so that would be an added procedure that would need to be discussed in through, they would need to track themselves on the grants that they do receive, what portion of those are allowed to be used back for administrative fees.
Well, that would make sense that we do that, we implement that process so that, I agree with Brian that it needs to be across the board. We can't just look at any certain restricted fund, we've got to look at all of them.
Right, I'm just saying, that will be an avenue that we need to, let the department heads know about in how they receive their grants, make sure that they are tracking that. They'll need to track those.
Okay.
So that when, at the end of the year, when I recalculate everything, I have the correct amount from them.
Further thoughts?
So for our purposes going forward, as we're trying to make some decisions here, do we do a straw poll on this, or are we there yet?
Yeah, fine with that.
Yeah, I think we're just making the decision to just a straw poll regarding just using the 4 this year.
Right. If
And then implementing something in the future.
Sure.
Because it sounds like not only is it going to some calculation to our auditor and Chantel, it's going to really affect those entities and how they move forward and bookkeeping and such, giving them an opportunity to really flush it out makes sense.
Okay, so
Just one comment real quick before we do that. I think that that's why we did say that we wanted to move this over to a January discussion or a later discussion. So if we are trying to put this in policy and we're trying to basically put a rush on this as we move forward from what we kind of decided at the commission, I do think that we should come up with a decision of what direction that we want to go.
I will say I can't decipher how the fees were calculated. There's no record of the methodology for how the fees are calculated at this point. So if the auditor does ask, I don't have an answer.
Okay.
So you could take that into consideration in your decisions.
but I guess then the thumbs up or down would be that we're gonna use the 4 right now and move forward with implementing this across the board in a manner that is fair to all departments based off of restricted funds that they receive. Am I
So
stating that properly
So the thumbs up is to just use the 4
for this budget?
for this budget. Okay.
Yeah,
So-
and then in the future will be a subcommittee or something to
Yes.
figure out.
Yes.
As long as we have a set timeline.
305,760, that total, that's what we'll move forward with in the budget. Is that correct?
wasn't it 319, right?
317.
317.
Well, it's 305 now.
Correct.
Did it change because we had some employees move in or out or?
Receive new numbers from Tess.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
so it's 305,
So
760.
it was, and it is based strictly upon the hours budgeted. And so, yeah, it did change a little bit.
So that's an impact of 157,60 that's entered into the calc sheet right now because that's the amount that's increased from 155, which had been entered into the budget.
All right, so a thumbs up along those lines,
We say we
we're
were
down?
revisiting it Q1.
Yes.
Yes.
Sure, absolutely.
All right, so we at least have a number that we can work off of there. What timing and direction do you guys need to come up with the numbers based off the calculations that Brian was running? What do you see needing there?
I'm sorry, what, as far as,
The TRT and the TRCCA calculation?
That's correct. So I am correct on that. So the ones that we would need to check in on is the freeze, which Mark had verified earlier this, today.
The updated impact of doing a hiring freeze through July, kind of, is that the idea?
Well, I would think that we want to know from July, through July and then also through just the entire year.
I currently have 683,271 through July, but that was,
So 681 through July or 1.1, that's probably right then what Mark came up with, 1.1 for an entire year.
I actively see some cursors. No. Bill, when you get.
Okay, and then, oh. You want me to finish going
No,
through
finish going.
what we need verified?
Yes.
And then the RIF that we had talked about for the voluntary RIF. Of about, I used 100,000. The calculations on the sheet right there were 16.5 per month. But I thought that might be a little bit generous, so I took that all the way down to 100,000.
yeah, that's
Right there.
100 is what I have entered in this calc sheet.
Now,
Okay.
if you all open up that budget scenario calc sheet, Gabe's actually changing it as we.
Yeah, I was like, I see it on the fly.
So,
So if you have 100,000 in that RIF right there. Admin fees, the freeze for the year would be 1.357. The effect on the general fund. And then once again, if we go back through the TRT and the TRCCA. So those numbers being correct, right, that comes to 6.1 million. Oh, but
Yeah, so just a point, and I haven't looked at these numbers at all, but just doing some really simple math in my head. So last year we collected about 8 million in total TRT, right, across the board.
Yeah.
I mean, not including TRCC, just TRT. Right, 8 million, 7.9, I believe.
Something, yeah, 7 point something.
And mitigation isn't it mitigation 43% of total TRT?
so just right here from Gabe's projections, I didn't go through and double check his numbers from.
Sure, okay.
His projections, we got 4.56 in mitigation.
So I'm just doing really simple math in my head, and I believe mitigation is less, right? Mitigation is less than half of total TRT, right? The majority of TRT is promotion. You guys are right?
Yes, yeah, we can pull up our numbers on one.
So if we're flat and we collected 8 million last year, and if mitigation is less than half of 8 million, then wouldn't mitigation be under 4 million?
That's Gabe, these are.
Okay, exactly. I mean, again,
Remember that the rate went up. That does.
the rate went up a little bit, but we're still considerably below
0.5, it went up
0.5, right?
0.5%.
But I think we're still, no matter which way you slice it, we're gonna be just over 8 million and considerably, I mean, this is, maybe I'm totally wrong. I don't know. I just was thinking logically in my head from numbers in the past, and that it doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Okay, I'm gonna direct you.
I'd love you to prove me I'm
And-
wrong.
I feel confident.
Okay, if you feel confident, great.
I'll direct you to a link.
Feeling not
I'll
confident.
send it out right now. It's
Thanks.
in past commission agendas. So.
Okay.
We had the projections that we talked
Okay.
about that. But we're looking at 4.56 right there for his projections. So, and we're running this whole budget off of these projections.
Right.
So I think that we should probably stick with that. 4.56 there, and then we're looking at the TRCCA of 1.5.
That makes sense. That number makes sense.
Yeah, 1.5. When I add those up, it's 6.1 million.
Mhm.
What we have allocated so far in this budget is 4.9 million going to the sheriff.
Yep.
Okay,
Right,
so that would give us 1.3, is that correct?
absolutely.
1.3 million that we can still allocate of TRCCA.
To things that can utilize.
What's that? 1.3.
Right,
And so if we're still looking, so going back to that 1.3, we're looking at being about 100,000 off from our draw from the general fund. So that could be pulled into the airport, right? So we could fund the airport,
Totally. I-
relieve a little bit of pressure off of that,
makes sense.
still giving us, so that's, let's just call that 100,000 to make life easy, right? So we said we had 1.3 million left. So let's take the 100,000 out. We're at 1.2 million. Solid waste is 500,000 on their request,
700,000 left.
114,000 for the museum,
Yep, we're down to 85.
585. We have the housing that we need to discuss today, And so whether that comes out of the fees in lieu of housing or it comes out of the general fund, it could be attributed there. And we have the 150 for trail ambassadors right there for moving forward.
Yep.
With that, that still leaves us a little bit in the black. That as positions come in next year, requests come in next year, we can evaluate those positions to still stay in the black for next year.
Right.
That's just where I came out with my math this morning.
Was rec included in that? Doesn't rec take mitigation?
137.
Yeah, rec does as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we need to just check with that. So of that 137, I'm not sure how much is actually just moving into OSTA for operations and maintenance. And I think it would be.
But it has to pass through rec.
Yeah. So rather than have that pass through, is just to figure that out and just make sure that OSTA's budget's all inside of one bucket would be my recommendation for that.
Commissioner McCandless.
Gabe, can I ask you a question? So when Brian's going through these numbers, I just wanted to make sure, because in the budget, it shows that 1,487,201 is the TRCCA money, but that it's been slotted in to law enforcement. So is that in actuality? So we have the mitigation money from TRT and law enforcement, and we have this money, so that would make a surplus because our sheriff's budget is only 4.9 million. But do you have that money already put into the general fund to where we actually don't have the additional money that Brian's talking about? I just want to make sure that we don't already have the TRCCA money put into the general fund in law enforcement where it's making our general, because they do live in the general fund, and that we're not having additional, like that we're not looking at this wrong. The money's not already put in there and spent, and then we're thinking we have more money to spend. Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't.
No? So Brian's.
I think you lost me.
So Brian's
lost me.
numbers make sense?
Yes.
So Brian's numbers make sense as far as we have extra money out of the TRCCA to spend.
Well, law enforcement includes dispatch, jail, which are all, also big budgets that are qualifying uses for those mitigation funds. So I think that might be what you're speaking to, is like that overall consolidated amount of TRCCA and TRT mitigation exceeds the amount of the sheriff's office budget, but it doesn't actually exceed the amount of the sheriff and the dispatch and the jail budget. Does that answer your question?
Kind of.
I think she's just looking for verification.
Make
You're
sure that-
comfortable with Brian's numbers.
Yeah,
I haven't seen Brian's, I'm showing my work. I don't.
So you're so I'll use this way more.
So
Clear.
I think I can make that.
So the $1.4 million for TRCCA is already in the budget and it's already spent. So anything that we spend above that for the museum or solid waste is still an impact on our reserves.
Correct. That is correct. Yes.
Can I make?
And any use of TRT or TRCCA that isn't right now, all I'm trying to enter in as a placeholder in this budget is a full use of those funds as a general fund offset. And so in the case of the Recreation Special Service District, Solid Waste Special Service District, or the museum, which have been historical uses of those types of funds, those aren't general fund offsets. So if the commission wishes to use every dollar spent towards those three specific efforts of those funds would come, at the expense of the general fund bottom line. Does that make sense?
It does. Can I make it just a clarifying?
I've had my hand up for a while.
Or Tricia, I just wanted to clarify.
Go ahead.
I will state that I once again, and I've already stated it, I think, and again, Brian, I really appreciate all your work. I think we need to allow Gabe and Chantel to solidify these numbers before we start trying to make decisions surrounding them. And we're sitting here trying to solidify these numbers in the middle of a meeting, and I think we shouldn't. We can have these other minor discussions, but I think we allow them to solidify numbers and we come back and make final decisions.
I feel fine about what's in the calc sheet that everyone has access to now.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Commissioner Martinez.
Perfect. Thank you. What was not clear is that the TRCCA was going to fund the jail and was going to fund dispatch. right? So that was not included in the sheriff's budget. And that's where the miscommunication is at.
So what do you say?
I think that the numbers that I presented are not gonna work because we didn't know that the TRCCA was funding the jail and funding
That's what I thought.
dispatch.
Mitigation works, but the TRCCA does not.
Is that?
Mitigation, right?
So, yeah, mitigation. So we're not, how the funds were distributed.
Yeah.
We're not clear, so. So they might have some different numbers when they're coming through. So there might not be the 1.1 coming left over from mitigation and TRCCA. Is that correct, Gabe?
Right, yeah, and I did say that, law enforcement, oh, yeah. I think I understand what you're saying.
So I'm using 4.9, right? That's been allocated out of the 6.1, right? Which would be the TRCCA and TRT. I used 4.9 for the sheriff.
Okay.
Right? But then we've also allocated inside of this budget, the jail, which I don't know what that is at right there.
2.9,
What's that?
2.9.
2.9. So we've allocated into the jail and we've also allocated into dispatch on that, which is.
Yeah,
dispatch.
900.
And there's other general fund mitigation uses that could be allocated to. It doesn't have to be law enforcement.
But it's already all been allocated. It's just what I wanted to.
That's what.
Already.
As a placeholder in the budget,
Yes.
nothing
It's-
is set in stone.
Well, yeah, but
It's just an idea.
anything that we add in is an additional expense. I just want to make sure that we
Correct.
don't have leftover money from that to
No.
spend.
Mitigation
That's-
or the TRCC.
There's plenty of mitigation uses in this budget.
No, yeah, there's plenty.
$10 million of mitigation available in this budget, I'm sure,
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. I just want to make sure we weren't thinking we had extra money to spend as we go. They'll still be affecting our draw as we disperse money to these other entities.
Mhm.
It's so exciting.
Mhm.
I know, it was exciting.
We had a moment of
Scared.
excitement. Certainly.
Okay, moving onward. Our bottom line is still workable with the worksheet that you have that you're keeping live as we go,
I
correct?
feel comfortable with it, yes.
So then I know that Commissioner Hedin has got some items that she's wanted to work on. Do we want to move forward with those?
Sure, I just have two. I think I'm down to two. I can, I'll bring up, I'll bring up my other concerns at the final meeting and just let it lie. I've brought them up many times and it's gone nowhere, so it is what it is. The two are the discretionary, the amount of money in the discretionary, and sorry, I have to pull it up. But I think we're up to 90,000. And if you go back to, sec. So many notes, not even funny. Sorry, I'm just trying to do. I know, okay. I just would recommend. Back in 24, we were at 65.7. And it's just steadily gone up. And one thing I would state during the budget advisory process is some departments, not all, but the bulk of departments did an outstanding job of outlining very specifically where their monies were going. I'll state on a basic level, I run a program that's state funded. It's like 120 grand, but literally when I turn in my budget to the state, it has to be, I'm driving 360 miles at 51 cents a mile. Like that's the kind of detail I have to provide. And so I think with these discretionary monies, if we have some big spends right now that are allotted, because I believe, and tell me if I'm wrong, that for example, the U of U study we've put on the 26 budget or a portion of it. Is that correct?
So it's on last year's.
You think so?
which study?
The
University of Utah.
MC Gardner.
MC Gardner? No, that came out of this year's
25. Okay, great. So unless we have some big items, I see no, if we have some things already allotted where we're like, yep, I want to spend money on X, Y, and Z. And I do think we need to make sure, Mary and I had a discussion last night, this idea of needs versus wants. One of the things I heard quite a bit yesterday is I want. I heard that term multiple times, many times. And I really think we're at a point within this process that we really need to be concentrating on needs and not wants. It's, and maybe in 27, we can get back to some wants, but I think we need to concentrate on needs. So unless we have something really pending that we see for that discretionary, I think we should reduce it back to 24. Maybe we could reduce it more than that. Maybe we go to 50 grand.
Let me interrupt for just a minute as you're going along here, rather than just throwing out vagueness. Why don't you be very specific when you say wants and needs so that we're not just wondering what you're talking about and the public doesn't wonder either. Be specific, please, on the wants and the needs.
Yeah, I mean, multiple times, specifically when we were discussing travel, it was like, I want to go here, I want to do this. Yeah. I didn't.
Talking discretionary now, I thought we had travels taken care of yesterday.
Yeah, I'm talking about discretionary.
Okay, so when you say wants and needs, be specific, please. So
I don't have any needs or wants. I don't have anything to put in the discretionary right now. So what I'm saying is if we have a couple items that we know we need, then maybe we can outline that in discretionary. If not, I would recommend we reduce that budget quite a bit. I didn't have.
I'd like to put one need inside of there is we're going to be looking at a land use code update. And right now we only have, 100,000 budgeted? And we're looking well north of 200,000.
But that would be in planning and zoning budget, not ours.
But it's still gonna, no, it's a need that you've already explained.
Sure.
This could be an opportunity for the commission to use some of its discretionary to have that holistic land use code update.
Wait, Chair, Matt, can I?
Please.
And I will say, because I presented the commission's budget, and so part of this is my fault, because I just kind of went with the trend. I don't know that I have a list of stuff, that was just kind of the where it was going. And I tend to agree, if we don't have specific items that need to be in there under discretionary, we should lower that. But if there are some items, I just pulled 90,000 kind of, because that's kind of where it was headed is all. I didn't have any specific items myself in there for the commission on discretionary. I just wanted to clear that out.
The land use code update.
Commissioner Dean and then Commissioner McCandless.
So I'm gonna recommend that, we bring that down to, I would recommend we cut that in half. We can always amend that if there was something pending that would actually fit, the land use code update is imperative, but that would be in the planning and zoning's department. So I would recommend that we cut that in half. That's my recommendation. That saves us a chunk.
Oh, it's been a while since I watched the budget advisory meeting, but I know that you were there, Trish. So your guys, and the money was discussed in there for what was in that discretionary. And I know there was a discussion on, should we separate these out instead of having them discretionary? I can go back and watch that meeting and get back to you tomorrow, but I don't have time today. But I do know that there are specific things. You don't remember, because it was a conversation. There were specific things for the discretionary. And it was a discussion.
You're right, Melody, but
on-
I think that some of the discretionary, the things that I think, those should be in professional services
Right.
1,000 to homeless services has always come out of that line.
of discretionary.
Yeah, it seems like you guys went down it, and there wasn't a large leftover when it was the discussion during the budget advisory.
I think one of the things, and I brought it up, but Gabe and I have already discussed this, is we had, I think it's completed now, and I will get an update on that. Utah State was doing a water modeling study that was commissioned a few years ago. That I believe we paid that contract, but I think I might have stated that I wasn't sure, and that might have been one of those pieces coming out of discretionary. Because when we did approve that, it was initially out of discretionary. So that's just my recommendation. Again, it can always be amended, but it cleans something up right now.
Recommendation taken, and when Commissioner Martinez gets back, we'll do a thumbs up or down and we move on to the next line.
Awesome. That sounds great.
So And what would the next line be?
Oh, so I want to talk about the 200,000 for affordable housing. Which is line 10-4830, 920. So, yeah. So he's back, so if we want to deal with that.
So
Commissioner McCandless.
I just pulled up Gabe's minutes from the meetings on September 5th. Was the commission, and it does say further clarification and justification should be provided with the commission discretionary budget line. And so do you remember what the discretionary items were specifically? I know there was a discussion during the budget meeting. That had those items, and it was discussed on actually separating them out, but then that would be as long as those specific items that were in there laid out. And so he just, Gabe just mentioned this $10,000 for the homeless services. So there's obviously things inside of that. So to just cut it in half,
I'd have
And
to,
have
I'd
things
have to
that-
think about it. I just,
but I'm okay to take it down. I just know that there were specific things that were talked about that do go in there. And they were specific. So it wasn't like just money, just like $90,000 to just spend.
Here, can I share my screen? Do you care?
Sure, please go ahead, Commissioner McCurdy.
I think this Melody is what we were talking about. I think you and I were talking about the 2025. But so there was the Arches study, grant conservation, multicultural, DNR flood sensor, a credit card bill, some love communications thing, division of water quality, and then another credit card bill. And so that's what was in 2025. But I don't know that we have this level of breakout for the 2026 number. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Right.
You have ideas.
So we can assume grant conservation, we've given them money for years and years, $1,500, the 10 grand for the multicultural center. You know,
Commissioner McCurdy, please.
Oh. Being commission discretionary funds, can't we in the middle of the year use our discretion and vote any amount of funds in any direction at the commission's purview?
I said that.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't see a problem either way. Leave it or keep it. It's our discretion. I mean, it's the total body's discretion.
We are trying to balance the budget, so, you know,
So
the
take
more
it-
that we can chop down, that helps us. So I'm gonna make a recommendation that we pull discretionary. I'm actually gonna go a little lower, pull it down to 40 grand. And if we need to amend it mid-year, we amend it.
Are we keeping the line items in there, like the 10,000? Or are they just gonna be their own
The
budget item?
two that, you're right, I think the multicultural center, which we've now given them money for, I think this is maybe our third or fourth year.
Thumbs up and thumbs down.
and,
And then the 1,500 we've given to the conservation district, as long as I've been around, I don't.
So
Are
even
we
the
gonna-
discretionary has, I'm
are
sorry.
we gonna pull those from the discretionary and make them their own line items?
No, leave them in discretionary, but
But-
that's.
We're
not gonna
just,
happen.
we're just outlining what's
Yeah.
in discretionary.
If they're that regular, I think it's appropriate to
You,
give them their own line.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
It's not that hard to do.
easier.
it's not discretionary of what you're talking about right now. So I wanna figure out, like, if these are gonna be their own line items, great, let's make them their own line items and let's keep discretionary as discretionary. Which I think we're the only department really that has a discretionary fund. I think that everybody else kind of has, and it would make sense that the commission has a discretionary fund, right? And has some money available for needs that come up throughout the year.
I think this year we try to make that a low number as low as possible.
No, I get that. It makes sense. Not disagreeing with that.
So do we have a number we want to use?
So we do 40 for discretionary, but we put Sea Haven and homeless services on their own lines.
On their own
The
line.
other $2,000.
From me too.
That makes sense, Gabe?
Yep, and what are we, and what were we moving discretionary to?
40. That's our thumbs, we're gonna have a thumbs up, thumbs down in here in a second.
Thumbs up to the 40K.
But then you're
And then-
We're gonna
adding two
thumbs
separate
up.
line items for
Yeah.
another 15, so.
Thumbs up or down to 40K for discretionary with moving out the two and for their own line item, so. Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Sounds well.
Wait, I thought we were voting to lower the.
We did to 40,
40.
but we still voted.
Okay.
One.
No, we didn't vote.
No vote, correct, thumbs up. All right, moving on to the next discussion. If we are done with discretionary.
Yes, sir.
I probably should thumbs up, thumbs down, though, how much we're giving to homeless services and how much we're giving to Sea Haven. And is there anybody else that we had, that was the discussion, if there was anyone else that we were gonna give money to? And would we have that in their separate lines as well?
I don't know what other items other than the museum that we have discussed that has its own line item. The Sea Haven and the homelessness one.
Sea Haven, homeless, grant conservation.
Humane Society was the one I was trying to remember.
Humane Society, I do have currently entered. That's just, that has its own line. It's been like, you know, many years for that spay neuter.
But you said they didn't ask.
They did actually.
Oh, they did, okay.
Yeah.
And so are those line items entered at last year's amounts or are there requests being asked? Because I think considering the budget woes that we're suffering right now, even a haircut for all of those to some degree would be justified, would it not?
All that last year's amount is the current request. Or in the case of the Humane Society, it's already entered.
Thoughts, discussions while we're moving stuff out of discretionary? Yes, Commissioner Martinez.
I just think that we asked, we asked our departments to take 5% off. I think that anybody that we're allocating money to outside of the county, that we should ask them to take 5% off their request as well.
Commissioner McCandless.
Does anybody know? The services that we get from Four Corners Mental Health and Four Corners Health Department, I would imagine those are contracted services. So I don't know if we can just say we're not gonna pay the whole bill. It would be like the city saying they're not gonna pay our whole bill.
I don't know if it would be advisable to reduce those contributions is my position on that. Because it is an interlocal sort of thing that other counties are all agreeing to contribute at this rate.
To those two entities.
Right.
And which ones were those again?
Four Corners and Southeastern Utah Health Department.
Okay, so we have ILAs with them?
I don't know if it's a formal ILA. It certainly is it's a cooperative, it's some sort of cooperative agreement.
Okay.
I don't know if I don't want to say that we're contractually obligated, but it's one of those things. It would be like the UAC dues. If we decided, no, we don't want to pay UAC 20, we'd rather pay them 18, and UAC would be like, well, if everyone did that, this would be a mess, you know?
Right. Yes, Commissioner McGann.
The only reason I wouldn't be comfortable in reducing the funds to those nonprofits is they were hit so hard this year by many of them lost grants. Many of them have lost funding. And so they are, I think in a way, them asking for the same amount as last year is commendable because they probably need a lot more. So I'm not comfortable with reducing theirs.
I'm open to suggestions around the room. I'm not comfortable with an increase anywhere for sure.
But they're asking for the same, so I think that's reasonable because they're probably needing more. Because they're receiving so much less from other areas.
So are we then in agreement that we move on from that one?
Stand static.
On,
And let's just go through them all. Let's go the ones we know. So he's got we've got have $12,000 in the budget for Humane Society. A thumbs up or thumbs down?
And that's consistent with.
With every year that we
Okay.
can see the budget for
That's
the last
consistent.
2 years.
Okay,
And it's already in there, so it's already, but we can take it out, but is everybody good with that?
and
Consistent,
I'd
same?
say once again, we could take 5% off of them, that would make me a little happier.
I'd keep it at current. Same as we've done last year.
What's the whole list?
Okay, so the Humane Society is 12,000. I'll just go with ones I can see from notes that we have in our We have,
It's in the calc sheet too. Decision points.
sheet has Peak Haven is 12,500. And is that consistent? And they're not in the budget yet,
Are
right?
there any that aren't
Okay,
consistent?
10,000 to homeless services and 1,500 to the Grand Conservation District and 12,000 to Humane Society.
And those are all consistent.
No, yeah, no increase, right? Same.
Right.
And we'll just go ahead and throw in there, since we're gonna talk about these. So the Four Corners went from 115,000 to 120,000. And that's based on our population, and that's how they calculate it. And the health department went from 104,000 to 105,000. And those are the requests they have for the county on those cooperative agreements.
I would definitely recommend we hold those at whatever they had last year. I'm not in favor of an increase anywhere. I mean,
Or for the health and the Four Corners?
all of them. I mean, we're not seeing an increase. I don't know why they need an increase, so
Didn't Gabe say the rest of the counties agreed to that though?
what's that?
Because those are interlocal agreements with other.
Sure, but we don't have an interlocal agreement that people just get to come in and ask for an increase and that we automatically give it to them.
I think we do. I think we have based upon the percentage of the fee that we pay, the Four Corners Mental Health is based upon our population percentage. And so our population has gone up a small percentage, and that's that amount of money. So I don't think we can just, I mean, we can say we're not gonna pay it, but it would be just like us just not choosing to pay a bill.
Sure, I would question that our population has gone up, number one, when we've seen nothing but a decline over the years, so I'm not sure where those numbers are coming from. We've been in a negative 0.01.
People being served at the Four Corners Mental Health. The amount of people being served.
Not our population in general.
In general.
You're saying, okay. I can buy that.
And what was the increase again? 5,000?
5,000.
Again, I struggle with increases. Unless we do have an agreement in place that they,
Question, Mark? Would it be possible to get the ILA between that and the Four Corners, just so I have a chance to look that over? Thank you.
and just we'll look at the one for the
For the health
health
department.
department as well.
How many counties are on health department?
3.
Everyone contributing the same, do we know?
No, we pay the least of all of the counties. We have the smallest. San Juan County isn't, so all Four Corners, San Juan County left a couple of years ago. I don't,
Struggling.
but, and they're struggling. San Juan County, I think might be working on coming back. But, so yeah, we pay the least amount on on both of those.
Okay.
Groups.
Okay, leave them as they are now and we can review later, correct? Is that kind of where we all are?
Yeah, I agree. Agreed.
Thumbs up?
Thumbs up? Okay. Moving on.
Yeah, so we have on line item 10-4830-920-017, a $200,000 spend for affordable housing project. And I think it's a really bad look. I think if these monies were to come out of the fee and lieu, which I know that that's still up for debate, I think it'd probably be quite a bit more palatable to the general public, but I think to be taking $200,000 out of the general fund when we're trying to balance the budget for private developers isn't great. And it puts us in a situation where, the housing subcommittee has met extensively throughout the year. And I've been really, to be honest, proud of the work that we've done. We haven't, rocked the world, but I think what we did do was get a really solid priority list of what we can do. And we've encompassed extensively. Mackle and Hasu and all these individuals have worked with us to come up with a priority list. So the reality is there's a lot of things we could be funding And so to then elevate our budget, already spend all the money in 26 for affordable housing, to go to a private entity, I just, I'm struggling with this and I'm not gonna get over it. So what I would like to do on this is really work with Stephen to make sure that those monies can't come out of the fee and lieu. And obviously, we need some loan docs in place. We need all those agreements in place. So hopefully we'll get repaid. And that can be a revolving loan fund. But to put this into the general fund, I'm struggling. I can't do it. And it just puts us dead in the water with our housing subcommittee. I don't know what we're gonna do next year. Not much, I guess. Talk about our wishes without any money to institute any of them.
Okay. Anybody? Please, Commissioner Martinez, and then I'll weigh in also.
No, I think that the commission has voted on this already. I mean, it would be the same as going back on our vote right there, which both of these are included. If we look on the estimated budget from the workshop, it says includes 200,000 for affordable housing loan project and 150,000 for trail ambassadors. So, I mean, I don't think that we're going back on decisions that the commission has already made from 2020 in 2025 to allocate funds for 2026. Moving into just some of your questions on what the housing subcommittee could be focusing on. It could be actually just on structuring and pulling some of all the other groups that we have out there and getting it so that Grand County has maybe a little bit more of a solid structure as we kind of move into 2026.
Agreed. And, you know, we've had this debate, we've had the vote, yet it keeps coming up time and again. And I understand that it's something that you're not in favor of. We all understand it, but we're beating a dead horse here. And we're talking about something housing here that Arroyo Crossing doesn't cover. This type of housing for the lowest of the low in our community that work in the restaurants and in the hotels. And so again, we can continue to debate this, even though it's already been debated and voted on and moved through the commission. And almost, I believe what we're doing is breaking process here. I think you're stepping out and you're breaking the process of something that's already been debated. And if we want to keep going down this road, why we can, we're capable of it and we will. So again, we have the 85,000 in the housing fund and I see all your hands. I realize McCurdy was up, Adler next, Hadeen. And so we'll go there if that's what we want to do. But again, we're breaking process. And we continually get reminded by people, commissioners, that we are breaking process in other areas. This housing is something that's needed for the community. This housing meets a need when many of these people that would be moving in and eligible for this were moved out of Walnut Lane and other areas in both the city and the county when trailer courts have been shut down. So although it amazes me that you can continue to come out against housing, this one is just, I just don't get it. And we keep throwing that developer word out there. Let's talk about developers. I believe even Southeastern Utah Housing Authority is a corporation. They're a developer also. They have been a major partner in the development at Arroyo Crossing, to their credit. So to continually degrade individuals that want to do something in this community by throwing out that we're giving money to a private developer, that's almost, you make that sound like they're criminals. And so I don't understand why we continue to have the debate. I'm going to stand on the fact this has been voted on, that it's time to move on. Commissioner McCurdy, please, Hadler, then Hadeen.
Gabe, this fund location of the 85,000 from the fee in lieu of housing. I just in looking for it, like the fund total of that combined. I was just looking for the total.
So I think what you're talking about is there's 100,000 that was sort of earmarked for affordable housing.
Yeah, that one.
So that's just what's budgeted. So it's just kind of like, it's just an idea. that
Okay,
like
just-
sort of authorizes the commission to execute the idea. So it's not like, there isn't like a fund, there isn't like a set aside for
Yeah.
it. It's just like it's the sort of solidified idea that exists in the budget document. And so, you know, rolling over into 2026, the commission could decide, you know, currently 200,000 flat is budgeted into line, just to answer your question more directly. It's in the contributions, which is at the bottom of the general fund. We're talking about 1048, 39, 20. 017 affordable housing contribution.
Yes, I'm actually on
So there's 200,000 currently entered in 2026 tentative budget. It's not 285, it could be.
Okay, so
As far as the fee in lieu, you know, I think that maybe is intended to sort of cover for the fee in lieu if it maybe isn't available. I'm not sure of the intention in there, sort of administration sort of, you know, entered that adjustment there. And I can't really speak to the qualification of those fee in lieu. It's my understanding is it's doubtful that those are available, but I can't speak to it with authority.
okay, but with that one, I speak 2 seconds.
Sure.
When I speak at the housing subcommittee, I mean, we're part of, I would like to know the total that we're talking about, or available, or when we say we can use it, quotation marks in the air. How do I get there?
I mean, it's kind of up to you all, like, you know, when we're talking about budgeting and we say, oh, let's wait to see how revenues hit before we decide to spend this money. I mean, it would seem to me one of those types of things where you would only spend it if you feel like you have the money. But you know, if you want to, I also understand how the governing body might want to extend themselves for a critical subject such as affordable housing. So it's really, the commission decides what, you know, what
Yeah.
the number is.
I just want to speak on, I wasn't, well, I was barely sitting actually, when fee and lieu of housing were being collected. I just need to know that exact total that was collected
Okay.
during those times.
Quinn can weigh in on that and then we'll go to.
I will say, I think in looking at the contract for one of the housing bonds that was posted, I've kind of changed my mind and I'm waiting for a response from council on the appropriateness of that funding. And I think I CC'd Cameron Winfield as well on that email yesterday. So I've kind of changed my mind from where it was before, but I'm hesitant to say anything out loud without the attorney weighing in on it first. So
Okay,
I think it's,
we will all work there.
Commissioner Hadler.
In my understanding, when we voted, and I didn't vote for it or against it, but was that it would be from the fee of in lieu of housing. I don't think the discussion was that it would come out of the general fund. Maybe my memory is faulty, but I think this is the wrong year to bring it out of the general fund. I think there's if it did come out of the fees in lieu of housing, I think that's the different conversation. Those two funding sources are not the same. And again, trying to close a large gap in the budget. As Gabe said earlier, only if we have the money, which we don't have the money in the general fund right now. We're still trying to close that gap. We can't take it out of the fees in lieu of housing, then I'm 100% against it.
Commissioner Hadeen.
So just a couple things, Bill, just because I use the word developer, doesn't it all, it's just a word. I don't say it with some snide tone to I just say the word developer. So I would appreciate if you'd stop putting words in my mouth. Okay, that'd be great. My partner, by the way, no longer does it, but you know, used to be a contractor that did development. So I'm not anti-developer. I sleep with one of them, or not anymore, but used to be. So just leave that there. So please stop putting words in my mouth. I don't think we're breaking process. I think the whole fact that line item, which the attorney did ask it to be pulled off the agenda, was breaking process. We need to have things ready for those agenda action items. And it wasn't ready. And so that being said, the difference between the trail ambassador expenditure and this expenditure is one we had a contract and one we did not. There's the difference. And it's a huge difference because in theory, that contract is coming back. I've been told that we're going to vote on it again when we have a solid contract. And I would recommend when that comes back to vote that we think deeply about where we're sitting with the budget. Because my understanding is, I was told in that meeting that once the contract was in place, it was going to come back as an action item. And at that time, I guess we'll revisit this spend. I guess we can leave it in there until we vote on that again. But that being said, I think we think very deeply about where we sit with the budget and expending these types of monies. And again, I think if it came out of fee and lieu, I still actually wouldn't support it because it wasn't a priority list of the subcommittee. We had a huge priority list of where those monies could go and it wasn't on that list. But I could ingest it. At this point, I think putting that much money in the general fund is just not acceptable, you know, and once again, I'm not going to debate this. We've already beat this dead horse, but we have done a lot. We've done a lot. Hey, Brian, can you not do that, please? We've done a lot for affordable housing.
I'll go to Commissioner.
You guys, when you
Martinez.
laugh, and I don't know what you guys are laughing at, but it's childish to say the
I'm gonna
least.
go to Commissioner Martinez. Please keep your comments. Yes, Commissioner Martinez.
Yeah, Trish, I was not laughing at you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So there was no
Okay.
laughing at you. So
I appreciate
just as
that.
you asked Commissioner Winfield to not put words into your mouth, please don't do the same to me on my actions. So I just appreciate that. Thanks. And then second off, I was just going to say that we do have quite a few items that are left here. I understand that we want to sit here and debate.
No, that we can go.
But I think that once again, like I stated at the beginning, it's already been voted on. We can move on this and we can discuss this later if we need to. But it would be great if we could try to move through these remaining items so we can see where we are and we can figure out if we need to have another meeting either Thursday or Friday. I'd like to try to get this thing going if we could.
Thank you.
I can move through this as well, or Chair, you're more than welcome to.
No, please take us through it. I'm not sure where we're even at.
Yep. Okay, so moving down in, so the voluntary or the RIF, voluntary hour reductions through July, right there. I would say that actually should go for a full year because it would be a policy that would be available for the full year.
And you're working off of his budget
I'm
scenario.
gonna go back to this.
Yes, thank you.
It's pretty well organized
On
on
the same spot.
keeping us into an agenda, so thank you for that, Gabe. I don't know, does everyone feel comfortable with moving that actually to a full year? Because I do think that would be a policy that we basically instate that would cover through the full year.
I think that our current budget requires it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some of these we're gonna reevaluate quarterly, and I think that would be one as well. Maybe they don't want to do it all year long. Maybe they just want to volunteer for half a year, you know, depending on, unless we state that we're gonna reinstate it. So, I mean, yesterday we all thumbs up to keep it through July, so I don't know that we need to start there and then.
But it's voluntary.
Yeah.
So they, you know, and it's the idea that people can, if they want to have that, you know, that work-life balance, they can keep that through. So rather than just keeping it as, you know, we're just going to make this policy through July, I think that we could say that we're going to keep it through the end of the year and maybe forecast it in there through the end of the year.
What do you think, Tess? You think going through just making the policy for the voluntary hour reduction, that we should just do it for the full year?
That's an excellent question. I think certainly leaving the policy a bit more general so that we can, how do I put it? So that we can essentially kind of create some milestones, because with this being essentially a pilot, I want to ensure that we are checking in quarterly and ensuring that it isn't impacting operations, et cetera. I also think that some staff would be more hesitant to opt in if they felt locked in for the year in totality. So I've really just been looking at quarterly, what would it look like? That being said, I know for my department's budget, in order to make that 5% cut, I did go ahead and reduce myself and one of my other staff volunteer to reduce her hours throughout the entire year. So we are in a sense locked in, but not all departments that had that conversation prior to budget advisory board are. So I'd like to leave it flexible for them so that we can get some better engagement and ease into it.
Yes, Commissioner McCurdy and then Commissioner Hadler. And
You're on first.
If I might have them backwards, I saw you both.
So you said locking them in, like if they volunteered in January to do this, would they be locked in for the whole year if we propose that, or could they revisit it quarterly, like say, I'd like to have my hours reduced for half the year, but not the whole year?
Right, and that's what I would want to do is for us to
give
keep
them
it
some
flexible for them so that, certainly life circumstances can change, et cetera, and somebody may need to revert back to their, their traditional schedule.
Or vice versa.
Exactly,
Or, yeah, or
exactly. Or they may watch other people do it and say, actually, this looks like
other people may join in. Yeah.
possible and exactly. And
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Minus the or.
I think it would be something that we could continue on in perpetuity if it was something that was working for people. So we don't have to necessarily say it's till July or this year, it's just an option that we're giving employees to do.
thank you. I totally agree. And I got some of that feedback actually in the survey that somebody said they would not feel comfortable now, but looking into the future for childcare, et cetera, it could actually be a really great option for them.
Okay, so do we want to move
Thumbs
on?
up, thumbs down on that?
Just leave the number the same for now.
Okay, we can leave the number the same.
But we could move that up to 200,000.
Or maybe even 150 at least.
I think so.
5.
Since
It's
you may be
Yeah.
extending it through the whole, see, people might be
Yeah.
taking advantage of it for the whole year.
So what's the number that we should enter?
175, does that sound reasonable to everybody?
I think that's fine.
Yeah. I think you went low anyways because she was thinking
I did.
$16 a quarter.
Yeah, she said 16.5 is what she projected, and I went to 100,000 just to be very conservative on it. So do we want to say 200,000 and think that we're still 165,000?
No, because it could sway both ways.
You could go.
150,000 is where I would about sit.
Perfect, I'm fine with that.
Okay,
Okay,
For the freeze, do we land on something? Do we want to increase that to 1.1 million or keep it at 683,000?
I think, do the comments from Dana, just when I was talking to her prior, were just if we leave some of those salaries in the budget, it makes it easier if we take them all the way out? Is it harder to amend it later? Or is it easier just halfway and then we'll amend the budget, and if the halfway through, then we decide we need to go ahead? I mean, the budget will look better if we take them all the way out for the whole year, but
Right.
realistically, we'd like to bring some people back. Or some
Yeah,
positions back.
I think it's easier. Yeah, I think I agree with Dana, and I think that you're portraying it correctly. That, yeah, the budget wouldn't look as good because we would show a budgeted draw that would cover those positions, when in actuality, they clearly wouldn't be.
But we'd still be reviewing them quarterly. It's not like in July, we just automatically say we're bringing them all back and the hiring freeze is over.
I mean, I think it's, do we want to remember this conversation in 4 months and look at it and try to keep that in, or do we want to basically just have it viewed as a full year? It's really how you guys want to view, I think, the budget. Does that make sense?
not totally.
So if we took out and took this at a full year, right here, and then when we're going and we're looking at revenues, we would be looking at revenues climbing, and we could say, hey, look, we're in the black, and then we could start bringing people back. Or we could look at it and remember that there's basically only the 600,000 out, and we would basically be climbing out of a hole. I don't know, does that make sense to everybody? And so it's really, do we want to basically take this out so that when we look at our budget, it looks flat and we're making decisions off of that right now? Or do we want to keep it in here at the halfway point and then remember that in 6 months? Or in 4 months? Yeah, 3 months, 4 months, when we're making these decisions again.
I guess I'm still a little bit unclear, but if we put the freeze on for a full year, we still have the option to come back and add people if the budget changes.
Every quarter, correct. We can change that every quarter. So it's really just how we want to view the budget.
I would be in favor of moving it to the freeze being for the full year. But I'm open.
And then reviewing it.
Commissioner McCurdy.
I want every department to know that the hiring freeze, if we stayed it through a year, if personally, if I saw changes, if we're in the black earlier, I'd make a change to that. As I assume the commission would, but I want departments to know there is always hope in those position requests. We're not just saying you're stuck with this forever. We are reviewing that.
Further discussion? Commissioner McCandless?
I don't know. I feel like saying it through the whole year just like kind of just takes the hope all the way out, you know, it just. And okay, we're doing a hiring freeze for the whole year and it's portrayed in the budget. Kind of takes the hope away, whereas halfway through, we at least have that, our budget set, and then we aren't. And we still are, as we bring, so we could really think we're doing really good and we know we goes back. We know we don't bring positions back. I don't know. It's. I think July is a good
Yeah, but-
spot.
I got a question.
Oh, yes.
This would be for Gabe, I guess. Have we, like in years past, we built in, you know, maybe $750,000 for vacancies that just occur naturally in the course of the year? Has that happened this year?
No, it doesn't. Yeah, no.
It's not. And we've done that every year that I've been on the commission, right? Previously, I think last year we were close to $1 million or something like that.
Correct.
Okay. Then I would be for instituting the hiring freeze for a whole year and revisiting it quarterly as necessary.
Yeah, I don't, you know, I mean, to your point, Melody, I guess I don't see where it changes the department's thinking one way or the other if we're gonna address it on a quarterly basis. If we were literally telling them, you know, till the end of 2026, you're out of luck, why? I think this is all based off of how our revenues look next year, but I'm not unsympathetic to the issue because it's weighing on our staff sometimes for sure. Well, what do we want to do? A thumbs up or down, moving it to a year? Further discussion, anybody? All right, moving the hiring freeze to a full year.
Fine,
Yeah.
Pat,
Yeah.
thumbs up.
Yeah.
You're good. It's in there.
It's really the same.
It's the same.
It is the same.
How we want to view it. On morale,
Yeah.
Totally.
I
It's the
understand.
same dollars,
Yeah.
but morale. Okay,
Okay, we skipped over the admin fees. Did we agree on that
we
yesterday? I
thumbs
thought?
up $4 this morning
Yeah.
on those 4 departments.
Yeah.
And now we need to,
The tax, we'll skip over that, I think, because well, it's gonna be a voted item on at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Coming on down, then we have, let's start from the bottom and move up, just because I think that there were some questions on rec SSD. I don't know if we want to kind of save that for the end. So for the museum, they were in 2024, what was the request in 2024?
17,779.
What's that? 117 was 2024?
Yes, they took they took a small haircut on the
Okay.
request.
they have, the museum has utilities also, so they tend to be actually a little bit more than 114,529, but I guess we pay the utilities anyways, right? So we pay the utilities no matter what, so the donation's actually just for their employees, for salaries.
Operations.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the email that he sent over, this was kind of split between 4 individual salaries. Was it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they have a co-director structure now. They got rid of a large salary. I'm on that board. They've trimmed their budget. I mean, I'm very confident that they're doing everything they can to keep everything.
So they still need 114, or should we go less?
No, they need 114. I mean, they honestly need more than that, but like everyone else, they're making do.
Chuck, can I ask like a
Commissioner Hadeen, go ahead.
just some general questions?
Yeah.
Since you're on their board. I would assume that, you know, certain things that they do, could it flow through promotion monies? I mean, have they?
We've had this discussion. We have had this discussion. I think Diego did
Okay.
submit a request to
Okay,
Office of Tourism for certain.
and I'm not saying for next year.
No, and we have looked at it, and
Okay,
so when this is just my off the cuff, kind of when I remember looking at it. So, I mean, if you looked at the new HB 456, I mean, there were specific rules on even giving money to a, like a municipality.
Mhm.
Right? And so there is no rules on giving it to a private entity. Right? And so that's where the problem lies at, is we can't give them promotional money through that channel.
Okay.
That's kind of where we ended at least at the MTAB board.
Can't the museum work with MTAB to facilitate promotion as a cultural attraction to the county?
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could run just like the golf course could come in and we could run ads for them.
Okay, that was,
To take the pressure off of their advertising.
that was, I guess, where I was going.
And it's can't go the way of like, you can't give them $50,000 to cover their advertising budget. It would
Understood.
have to go through our Office of Tourism.
Yeah, that was, I guess, yeah, my question is, could, that entity somehow,
They could drop
supplement, okay, that's
drop
awesome.
some of their advertising.
Okay,
budget and
that's
work
great.
with them
Yeah.
that way,
Okay,
But
thank
then
you.
once again, it would have to go through Madden and just the
Yeah.
proper channels.
Understood.
Absolutely,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, great.
But yeah,
And so Diego has reached out to you all? Is that?
Yeah, I believe Diego was
Going to.
He sent an, didn't Diego do a presentation or an email to the MOP board when they were looking at the,
but the
think I was thinking-
conversation once again was basically, can we repay those? It was the direct move of those funds. So the channel would, I think, have to go from, a request to the MTAB board, and then the MTAB board would say, yes, we think that this would be a good campaign. I would imagine that our purchasing policy would say that if it's a campaign that we decide to run, that it would then come in front of the commission, just like
That'd be great. Okay,
other things that we've run as well.
That's great. Well,
do you have any other questions?
no, just,
Okay.
I'm very supportive of continuing. I think it's a big attraction, to our community. I think it's an economic driver. So,
I'm absolutely in favor of the museum's contribution. I think we have a strong history with them going back literally and definitely of helping out. And I know that's a critical part of their budget as well. And they're in a unique position as a kind of a unique cultural attraction in a otherwise mostly recreation dominated economy.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I think that it could be, there's a lot of opportunities that they could have. Simply like I do know that they go to the Go West show. And that's probably, usually when I figure a show, it's $10,000 to $12,000, right? So by taking away someone, instead of going as the museum, if they just handed some of the literature over to the Moab Office of Tourism, and while the Moab Office of Tourism was there, it would just be handing out that literature right there.
Do you think they could go under the umbrella of the Moab Office of Tourism as a non?
And once again, then you're crossing, right there, that's when you're crossing that line right.
So we're gonna do a thumbs up on the museum and leave it as the thumbs up would be in favor of leaving it where it is, correct?
At the 114,525, right?
Yes, sir. All right. Looks like that's unanimous. I am gonna note that we've passed 11 o'clock. If we want to continue on, I don't have a problem with it, but I don't
We're
know
scheduled
what
to
the rest of
11:30.
you were scheduled till
What's that?
11:30.
11:30.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's right, 9:30 we started.
No, I'm-
My bad, I apologize. We're having so much fun.
Who wants to eat breakfast?
So, waste, you want to go into that next?
Sure.
That looks like in 2024, they were requesting 500, and in 2025, they're requesting 450. Is that correct?
2023 was 400.
That's what we gave them in 2020.
Correct.
And this year, we're requesting what?
450.
Is it 2026?
It doesn't, it's not
I don't
on.
know what 2026 is. It's not.
Did they make a request to the MTAB or anything? They did?
500,000.
Okay.
And the museum had requested 190 to MTAB,
190, okay, so we did decrease there.
192, 36,
And I think it'll
75.
stay just same with solid waste, 450. Excuse me, 450 for solid waste, or do you?
What did they request?
500.
500,000.
I think we should go with 500,000.
I agree with that.
They're facing some real changes that are some for a brief period of time in the future is going to be costly.
Essential service.
Commissioner McCurdy.
I know that's you. But where do we have a medium point here? I look at this as I'm getting charged more at home for trash and trash services. And commission, I mean, 50 grand over the last year. Like when do we balance out the
Probably after we have the new trends.
new transfer station? Okay.
Yeah, because with the changes that are happening at Moab landfill, there's gonna have to be some major improvements in the transfer station, and that just Mark can attest from when he was at his last job. That is a hefty price.
And not pick up the trash. I very much understand that.
I think it's important that we invest. You know, I think once the transfer station has been upgraded, then I won't need to ask for much. My prayer.
The only reason I ask this is my constituents are thinking they're getting property taxed out of general fund, 500 grand. And then they're also paying
Isn't
higher
this
trash bill.
mitigation?
Well, it could technically be mitigation. I mean.
Mike's right. That's the correct way of looking at it. It would otherwise be a general fund offset.
Yeah, so when I have conversations with anyone in my district, usually, they go, why am I paying more for property taxes and paying more for trash? And I want to tell them because we need it. I very much understand that we need it, but I want that conversation to meet. Hey, we're gonna hit a point in 3 years about where I just want them to know that that's the question out there. That if you could find me an answer, I could justify this, no problem.
Well, you know, you can look at it, that if you've been here a long time,
Yeah,
it's the same transfer station.
yeah,
And
that's why I have
and
to
yet
understand.
our amount of stuff that is going through there and the amount of things is going to be going through there in the near future has increased exponentially. So.
Yeah. But you still get my, even in my
It's
talks, you
hard.
get my thumbs up to give them the 500.
It's
Because we need it
it's a hard swallow, and I understand it. Just, it's been a,
It's a need, not a want.
Yes.
Well, I know that
places that
we keep talking about the fact that we want to cut housing or we want to give people haircuts that come in here, but I've yet to hear anybody take a cut anywhere. So if we want to make this one 500,000, it's an increase. It's an increase all the way around. So let's keep the thumbs up and move on. But we're not going the direction towards balance.
We're still on solid waste.
It's always.
What is their ask? Their ask is 500,000 or is it 450?
It's a $500,000.
for 500.
So let's do a thumbs up on the 500.
Need, not a want.
Okay.
Okay.
Move on to the next one.
So just real quick, kind of before we go, just following Gabe's talk sheet right here, since the public's not going. As we're looking over with that 500 right there, that just put us into the red, $6,000.
$6,709.
That is with the freeze staying throughout the whole year.
So
Right, so just as we view this, I just wanted to just kind of catch everybody up. As we view this right here, we would basically need to be pulling in, an additional $500,000, right? Come July, right? Or be forecasting that for the entire year. If we were to be removing the hiring freeze and staying balanced for a mid-year adjustment.
And we have to pass the fixed skyway sales tax.
Right.
And we have, that's because this is showing that we would, and we have to pass the fixed skyway sales tax. The fixed skyway sales tax. We have to pass that.
The public safety building and some of the M&O for the sheriff's office.
Commissioner Hedin and then Commissioner McCurdy.
I'm good, sorry.
And so then the last one that we have on here right now is Rec SSD. And then, I don't know, does somebody have their?
I have it
budget?
right here pulled
Thank
up.
you. Appreciate that.
So we gave them $137,000. It was TRT transfer, but anyways, they spent. For me, the most glaring of this is that they spend $95,000 on the Osta Arena's maintenance and operations. And so if we don't give the Rec SSD, and I'm not sure why it goes to them and then that, maybe it was just because we had mitigation money.
Statutorily,
It has to go to an SSD. The funding has to go to an SSD.
Has to go. So we have to fund it.
No, it doesn't have to go to the SSD. That doesn't make sense. It has to, it was mitigation. So I think the rec is something that you can do mitigation to, but
Yeah.
you can't do mitigation to OSTA. So it passes through there. So it goes into the rec and then the rec gets to.
Yeah. So they have their,
I believe how it works.
all this, their expenses for just their SSD.
And I don't know if that changed with the new.
Is, well, just their expenses, so the audit is that 9,500, but that will be included in our Richie May audit. We haven't decided if we're gonna pay for our component units or not yet.
We're gonna supplement, so hopefully the top that they'd have to pay is 5.
Is 5, so they'd have, that'd be less.
Discussions the other day.
So their liability insurance is 7,000, they have office supplies for 1,500, their audit was 9,500, so it'll go down to 5. Clerical services, 6,000, advertising 500, which if they advertise with the Moab Office of Tourism, then that could go down. And then they give the maintenance and operation to the arena, $95,000, arena projects, $85,000, which I believe that was the fence, part of the fencing this year, so I don't know what they have a plan. $5,000 towards the ball field projects, $25,000 to the MRAC, $190,000 to the MRAC debt pledge, that's the pool.
Cool.
MBA Grand Center, nothing, and then the Moab Rec agreement, so that's probably the city rec agreement, $75,000 for our kids' sports. Rodeo Club, and then they have a 5,000 discretionary and grants, they give grants out to probably like 4-H and stuff, $35,000.
Variety pack.
It's a variety.
Variety things,
Yeah.
so that's their budget's total $545,000. And so we have given them $137,000 in the past. I mean, I do think we need to pay at least the $95,000, you know, with maintenance operations.
Just a question, which fund is OSTA? Just so I can look it up here.
General fund? Yep.
Is it general fund? Just trying to look at a line number so I can find out where we're at.
104511 is their department category.
Okay. Just see. How much did we include in there for that transfer?
It's not included in there.
I believe that it was. Included. 10.
Oh, yeah, good.
5.
Oh, yeah, it looks like we do have budgeted revenue of 103,503.
Coming from Rec SSD,
Good
correct?
catch, yep.
Yep. So,
That's part of us. That was exactly what I'm gonna say. They
so there's.
hand in hand fund OSTA.
Yeah, true.
And the interlocal agreement with 75,000 for the local sports, that's an agreed upon amount. That amount can.
And if they don't get it from us, then they don't have those funds, so,
Yeah, we're not gonna do that to children.
no.
Okay.
So, do we want to thumbs up the 137?
It doesn't come up to 137 though, that's 175.
No, we've only given them 137 in the past.
I have a question for you, Mike. You know, if they get PILT money, is that correct?
They get no money. That's the
Have they been
restriction.
on the upward trend or downward trend? I was trying to, I went to almost. They've been
Last
trending.
year upward into the beginning of this year.
Okay,
This year, flat
Flat.
across,
okay.
down and up. Yeah. Some of it's a secret, to how much they're gonna, receive
Yes.
every time
I
and
know,
when
I
they
know,
receive those
I know
payments.
that.
So
Okay. So no, really, you can't really project, you
Can't-
can't really.
I would say across,
Okay.
and I will find out exact numbers tonight. at the
Okay,
next meeting.
that'd be awesome.
Commissioner Martinez.
Could I just make a recommendation, just for clarity in the future, is if we move that, the amount that is is budgeted to come from the rec SSD over to OSTA. I think that we just call that, since we're funding it out of our general fund, let's just move that over to the general fund and then reduce that SSD payment by that amount. Does that make sense?
I agree with that.
So, and then just in the future, we don't have to go through this, like, where did the money kind of come from and chasing it?
So the allocation to the rec district is solely for non-OSTA. It's supporting their non-OSTA
Correct. Yep.
expenditures, and I'll zero out the revenue line that we have coming in for OSTA from the rec district.
Yeah, I mean, and it's still going to be the same effect, I think, on the general fund in the end. Future, I think it'll be clearer for everybody.
Can I raise a point on that?
Sure.
Part of that, though, I believe, just the way traditionally the relationship between rec and OSTA has worked is that rec in the rec board, then they have broader discretion to fund certain projects at OSTA. So it's not just Angie calling the shots or us calling the shots. It's actually the rec board has input. And I think that money tied to the rec board is generally good. And I think they generally do. I was only on board for a year, but they generally did, Angie had to come to the board and ask them for specific requests.
Yeah,
and then
it's
the
an
board-
application.
And the board decided. So,
Got it.
so maintaining that paradigm, I think, is helpful for
is.
that
And
relationship.
they do a great job out
They
there.
do, they're
I
excellent.
attended some of their
And I think
meetings for Mike.
looking at the
Yeah.
budget that Melody just presented there, that still would be there, right? Because there's two separate categories. There's maintenance and operations, and then there's projects. So they would still come to
And it was
the rec board for projects, but they would not be coming for maintenance and operations.
If there's enough money for the rec board to use their discretion to fund specific projects that Angie's coming to, then that would be acceptable to me.
Okay.
But otherwise, yeah, I think that is an important aspect of their
It
relationship.
doesn't change the dollar amount, does it?
Doesn't change the dollar amount in the end. It's just that we don't have to go and say, oh, look, 85,000 of our OSTA that we're counting on to fund the OSTA department is coming from rec SSD. Just makes it cleaner, at least in my view when I'm looking at it.
As long as there's still room in the rec budget to help with specific things that come up over the year.
Application for project.
So we're leaving the allocation at 137. Sorry. Allocation.
If you did it, it would be, you said how much was in the OSTA?
There's 103.
So it would be the 137, right? Minus the 103.
And that was just a 4-year average, so that wasn't really based on anything.
The 103.
Yeah, that was just like kind of an average of what they usually, of the last period of time, what they usually contribute to OSTA. We could stick with that number, or we could call it 100 to make it just kind of.
And the remainder would go to the rec.
Let's say 37. We'll call it 37.
And that's what's used for the projects that she comes to them for. The rest was going towards operations. Okay.
But it's still underneath their purview if they didn't want. If they have a different project outside of OSTA, we're still granting them money. 37,000.
Granting them 37,000 to use wherever.
Yes.
I think it's the idea that I have basically is the mission is the responsibility to make sure that OSTA's maintenance and operations is funded. Right, and so any additional projects that she wants to go to, she still has that option to go to the rec SSD
Overpayment.
or additional projects, right? But that the commission is making sure that OSTA is funded. And that's my view of how I'm looking at that. Right? Because right now we are relying on the rec SSD to make $100,000 payment to cover the maintenance and operations for 2026. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand where we're
Yeah.
going.
And I'll clarify all this
Honest,
tonight.
they understand it.
Yeah.
I'll clarify this with them tonight, by the way.
We're not taking anything away from them.
Do they do their budget on so this is 2025's budget I was looking at, so do they get a new one?
They,
26.
yes, they do. And they will for 2026.
Probably waiting on this right here.
Tonight. Oh, we
Okay, so
also,
thumbs up that it will be 37 to the rec SSD and move the other line of 100 over out of the general fund to
And
OSTA.
I'd ask Mike to bring that to him tonight if you have a meeting and make sure that we.
They agree with that.
Yes.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah, and if there's
Yeah.
some reason issue, let us know.
Got that, Mike?
I'm just making sure it was tonight. Thought it was Thursday.
Okay, so
Is that the end of
is
that
is it
list?
updated, Gabe, or 43,000 is where we're sitting
See, mine's
in the red?
It should be 143.
Maybe we have to put the 100,000 to OSTA's budget too, right?
Yeah,
Wasn't that 100 already in there, though?
no, it was a transfer out of the rec SSD anyways, so. So you might have to just, for this, for all intents and purposes, have it at 147. Oh.
We're a lot closer.
And do we want to talk about capital? Do we need to go through our capital, or will we just do that on a commission meeting?
We could.
Capital list?
We did that last year. We did that at the first meeting in January.
Capital projects list.
Set capital projects list in January.
Do you have a preference, Gabe?
I thought it was in January, so I had Sean here, but I had him leave, so.
Okay,
And he left the building, so.
that's fine. We'll just.
Yeah.
So then, I just wasn't sure. Anything
Good.
else?
Wait.
all right. Is there any other items that we need to work on?
It's Wednesday, by the way. It's tomorrow night.
It's tomorrow.
Rec SSD, I will be at tomorrow night. I'll have it clarified.
I also emailed the commission in response to request to find out more information for elected offices statutorily to remain open, and I've sent that to everyone. I received that from Attorney Stocks, Terry Hines, so I did forward that along.
Thank you.
While we're all here, do we want to discuss how we might close the 100 and whatever it is, $40,000 gap? Or any, I mean, even just spitballing ideas.
I mean, pulling that out of the reserves is a whole lot better than 2 million.
So in the last, like I alluded to earlier, in every year that we've been on the commission, there's been some amount allotted to the fact that not every position is filled, and the hiring freeze will take care of some of that, but there will still be positions that open up over the years, and that, I think last year we budgeted that at, I think it was close to $1 million. It was 800,000 or $1 million, but if we don't put that in this at all, I mean, even if we put a small number, or if we don't put that in, I think will increase our bottom line, because positions do turn over, and there's times where those aren't filled and those salaries aren't being paid.
I feel comfortable with us ending it with that small shortfall.
I mean, we have, if we look back at the last 4 years, I'm confident that number was somewhere north of 700,000 each year. And I think I remember a presentation last year where our estimates generally landed pretty close to the target. So even if we did a quarter of what we've been doing, that might be palatable to people. Again, I'd defer to the clerk for further information on that, but that's just a suggestion from me.
So Commissioner McCurdy, Commissioner Hedin, Commissioner.
The only reason that estimate fell close, and I do hope that doesn't happen this year, planning and zoning department didn't exist. We wouldn't ever want to plan for that or against the funds. Like it
would be interesting.
Yay to hope to save money, but we would never want to.
See where the numbers landed. Because we haven't seen the numbers for this year.
Numbers for
say, for example, just pulling numbers out of the air, but I believe we budgeted or we increased our revenue by $1 million last year.
Yeah, I did that analysis and I sent it to you.
You did?
A couple of weeks, but
Okay.
I updated all of that.
Okay.
You have it in your box.
What's the title of the email?
Yeah.
Or do you remember?
All right, and
I'll find it again.
Okay, I'll look.
Commissioner Hedin.
And this is just far into the future, maybe even looking at next year. I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but we have put a lot of money way in the past in things like stormwater mitigation and, even we've talked about and I know Brian, you've talked about this, having little monies put away in savings, right? And so I understand we can't do it now, but hopefully, maybe even mid-year, we can start going, where are we at? Definitely going into the next budget year, because if we keep pulling out of reserves, which is fine to get us by, we need to think about, restocking those reserves and then, definitely stormwater, we know how important that is. And so just, again, being a Debbie Downer, but just far into the future, just trying to get through right now, but looking towards a more positive budget in 27, hopefully.
Commissioner McCandless and then Commissioner Martinez, and then myself.
So Gabe put it in while I was talking. So it was that the $50,000 taken out of discretionary as well. So we're only at negative $93,709 draw now. Not that I was gonna point that out, but he got it taken care of. The other thing is, I want to just point out that, we still have 27 positions that are frozen. And so, our revenue would have to go up really high to add those positions back in, as well as put money away. And I'm all for saving money, but the only way that's going to happen is if we have to increase our revenue somehow. And our revenue increase is, we have Melissa's working on economic development. I know all of us are encouraging people to come here and spend their money. So we are being frugal this year with our hiring freeze. And the other thing I want to also speak to is that we have a lot of tenure in our team. The county has people that have been here for a really long time, and they have high salaries, which is fantastic. We want that, right? We don't want a bunch of new people that are all, on that base salary. And so it's a long time that has built up to having this amount of salaries. That's the largest amount of our budget is salaries. And those salaries are high because we have people that have been with the county for a long time. And I want us to appreciate that and that out there for the public to know that that's a lot of where that money goes. It's not because we're paying people a ton of money to come work for us. It's because they've worked here, they've gotten their longevity bonuses, and they've gotten their, performance bonuses and things. And so they've worked for their money. And so I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. I agree. Commissioner Martinez, myself, and then Commissioner Adina had her hand up as well.
I think
It's great, Melody. Thanks. It was really good. One of the other things that I wanted to point out is on that is we have, or the state has been collecting 0.25% tax into a mitigation grant. And that started back in July. So there is money that will be available. And so I do think that I'm not counting on it before it comes, but I think that the county should at least be able to realize some of that money that will be able to go into those mitigations and help us out as we're moving on through.
that's great.
I would hope that we would be able to pull $93,000 out of those grants coming for 2026. At least just with the needs of this county, the size of our county, and the demands that are put on this county from the tourists.
And that actually was discussed a little bit, that they're putting that board together at the last UAC meeting for that money. And maybe it's something that we can see if Melissa can monitor and
I know
or ourselves,
try to
but
join it.
Yeah.
it would be worthy. And then there's another thing I'd like to bring up, because we constantly hear about savings, and I agree we need to be putting money in savings. But I wonder, considering that, and we've talked multiple times, we've heard about how we had all this money saved up, and we're constantly pointing to the fact that certain commissioners are spending it down. But our previous strategic development director and our budget officer supposedly built all of this savings up. And to some degree, all the money that we've paid back for the TRT mistakes came out of the general fund, when really they could have come out of our savings. So if we really wanted to move some money around here, that money should have been paid back out of savings, supposedly that was being built up. And we would have money in the general funds for those TRT things. So I know that we constantly throw that out there, that savings discussion that we're spending down our savings account and we need to be moving in there, but again, it's more of a political move than it is really to have a discussion here and try and solve some problems in our community, whether it be taxes or housing or reducing folks' taxes instead of looking for another one to instill on people. So we could be looking at some ways to use savings for sure. Commissioner Hadeen, I know you were next and.
No, I'm good, thank you.
So Gabe, you did send that out and I apologize for, I hadn't seen that, but it does look like the numbers and we have that in our email. So we budgeted 16,519,744 for salaries this year, and the estimated spend on that is 15,612,721. So the gap there is $700 or $907,000. And then Gabe put in, it was all the way back to 2019, and there's a significant gap every year. Some years are even more than this year. For example, the biggest one was in 2022, but we haven't accounted for any of that. And I think even just putting $250,000 towards that out of our budget, I think is an extremely safe play. It'll probably land. It's landed far north of that every year for the last 5 years. So that's, I'm just again throwing that out.
Could you re-forward?
Yeah. I'll re-forward it. Sure.
Gabe just.
Oh, Apollo, you did.
Thank you, Gabe. All right, Commissioner McCurdy, and then I will,
Last thing for me, I will be that Debbie Downer. I already know of positions that are statutory compliance that are coming up. And I know the request is coming to the sheriff's department. I expect that to negate itself out with future talks of the MOUs, etc. But I wanted everyone to know that it is coming. It is a statutory compliance issue through dispatch department, and to look towards the quarter mitigation funds also being able to fund that position is good, but I didn't want to count them as extra. I didn't want to count them as extra with knowing that they're already going to be spent. So.
all right.
Chair,
Anyone
can I
else?
ask just a couple of clarifying questions real quick
Please
before they
do so.
So, are we clear? Yes, Chantel, Gabe, are we considering this a balanced budget with considering a draw from the general fund at the end of the year of roughly $100,000 of next year? Are we considering this across the finish line and ready for the 16th, or do we need to have another meeting before that?
Dumps 3/4 out.
Another meet, what are we doing?
We're saying that we're fine with
Okay, I
it.
thought you were going for another.
So as it stands right now, we have a budgeted draw from the general fund at the end of next year, of about
I
$100,000.
thought they were voting to have another meeting.
And I think that as we talk, and I fingers crossed it stays right at 93, but it could go, 85 to 110 or something.
Yeah. Agreed.
But we're all good with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you talk to, Gabe sent the information from Four Corners, and it's like $6,000 between those, and if that has to stay, I think there is contracts for those. And those are taken out of the budget right now, but that's.
So that's why I'm saying roughly 100, 125,
Right.
90, whatever it is. You guys are good with that? We don't need another meeting. We're gonna wrap this up and get it across the finish.
I don't think we need a meeting necessarily.
I think we should have another meeting just for the heck of it.
Will we have
Freedoms.
will we have a workshop for the next meeting?
That's up to you guys, whatever you guys wanna do.
I think that might be helpful.
I think that might be.
Tess, please, feel free to come up.
Thank you all.
A meeting.
Just let me finish it real quick with that.
I'm hoping just for a little
Okay.
clarity on new position 3 classes. So I know we have our 2 mandatory we discussed of mandatory new position, victims advocate part-time, and then the mandatory reclassification of the operations manager at the airport. There were a number of others, including a couple fully grant funded positions. We discussed maybe increasing the amount of hours budgeted for the airport administrative assistant to provide them a little bit more support. So do you all want me to just plan to present that again at the 16th, or do we want to do that prior to then so that we have some solid numbers?
How much of that is in the current budget as it exists right now?
I have not added the reclassification and new position into the budget because they had not been approved, and so I didn't want to be assumptive. But I can get those numbers over very promptly, or I can provide them right now.
I thought we thumbs up the victims advocate.
I thought we already did the big.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify whether or not that was just it's still being considered, or yes, it's approved.
It's a solid.
I think it's a,
Solid approved.
Yeah, the thumbs up that we did, because we had down and,
Thank you.
yeah.
Okay,
And
so
then Brian, you had something you were.
I just wanted to finish up with a statement on the workshop. I think it's a good idea, not only just for the to finish out, to iron out any last minute things that we need to iron out, but also just to catch the public up on what's going on. I don't know if everyone is paying attention to these budget meetings right here. I think it's just a good idea that we kind of have just a small presentation on how we landed.
So what are we talking about? How many?
Yeah, so can we get some sort of consensus on a time? What time do you want to start?
Let's start it at 3 o'clock.
I think an hour. I think we need a time limit on that.
Great.
Tuesday pre-meeting.
Is that good with you?
Yep.
Yes, that's good with you?
yes, that's great. Thank you all.
Thank you, Bill.
Yep, all right, with that, I will close this meeting out. Thank you, everybody.
Why we hate this.